Hello, my love. Yesterday morning, when I opened my eyes, the air felt a little heavier than usual. The sky outside my window was not dark and the day had only just begun, but my heart already felt tired. I did not know exactly why. Maybe it was because of schoolwork, small worries, or thoughts I had been carrying quietly inside me. But I told myself that feeling tired did not mean I was weak. It only meant I was human. Everyone has mornings when life feels a little too heavy. Still, I believed that the heaviness did not have to stay with me for the whole day. Sometimes a simple walk, a quiet breath, or a small act of kindness can make the heart feel lighter. After breakfast, I decided to go to the park near my house. The morning air was fresh, and the trees were moving gently in the wind. Birds were singing from high branches, and sunlight touched the grass softly. As I walked along the path, I began to feel calmer. Suddenly, I heard a tiny chirping sound near a flower bed. At first, I thought it was just a bird singing from a tree, but the sound seemed too close to the ground. I walked carefully toward it and saw a little baby bird standing under a tree. Its feathers were soft and messy, and its small wings trembled as it tried to hop forward. The baby bird looked scared. It kept flapping its wings, but it could not fly high enough to reach the nest above. I looked up and saw a nest hidden between the branches of a tall tree. I guessed that the little bird had fallen while trying to practice flying. For a moment, I felt worried. I did not want to hurt it or make it more afraid. I also knew that baby birds should not be handled too much, so I looked around carefully. There were no cats or dogs nearby, but the bird was too close to the walking path. Someone might step on it by accident. I gently took out a clean handkerchief from my bag and used it to lift the little bird very carefully. Its body was so light that I could hardly feel its weight. It chirped softly as if asking for help. I spoke to it in a quiet voice, even though I knew it could not understand me. "Don't be afraid," I whispered. "I will help you go home." The nest was high, so I could not reach it by myself. Luckily, a park worker was nearby, sweeping leaves under another tree. I quickly called him and explained what had happened. He brought a small ladder and climbed up carefully. I handed the baby bird to him, and he gently placed it back into the nest. A few seconds later, two bigger birds flew back to the tree. They chirped loudly, circling around the nest. I stepped back quietly because I did not want to disturb them. The baby bird was safe again, hidden among the leaves and close to its family. As I stood under the tree, my heart felt strangely peaceful. The morning had started with heaviness, but that small moment changed something inside me. I realized that kindness does not always have to be big. Sometimes helping one tiny creature is enough to remind us that the world is still gentle. On my way home, I kept thinking about the little bird. It had fallen while learning to fly, but falling did not mean it had failed. It only needed a little help to return to a safe place and try again another day. Maybe people are like that too. Sometimes we feel tired, lost, or unable to rise on our own. But with kindness, patience, and help from others, we can find our way back. Today I learned that a good deed can lift not only the one being helped, but also the heart of the person who helps. I left the park feeling lighter than when I arrived, and I was thankful that my heavy morning had turned into a beautiful memory. As I walked home from the park, I kept thinking about the little bird and how helpless it had looked on the ground. It had wings, but they were not strong enough yet. It wanted to return to its nest, but the tree was too high. It tried to move, tried to flap, tried to help itself, but the distance between the ground and the nest was too great for such a small creature. That little bird reminded me of myself. Many times I try to carry things that are too heavy for me. I try to solve every problem, understand every worry, and control every result. I tell myself that I must be strong, that I must keep going, that I must not let anyone see how tired I am. But deep inside, I know there are moments when my own strength is not enough. While I was thinking about this, a verse came to my mind. Jesus says in Matthew 11:28-30, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." These words felt very close to my heart today. Jesus does not say, "Come to me only when you are perfect." He does not say, "Come to me only when you are strong." He says to come when we are tired, burdened, and unable to carry everything by ourselves. I thought again about the baby bird. It did not need someone to scold it for falling. It did not need someone to stand far away and watch it struggle. It needed gentle hands. It needed help. It needed someone stronger to lift it back towards safety. In the same way, I believe God does not stand far away when we are tired. He comes close. He sees the weight we are carrying. He understands the silent battles we do not always speak about. And instead of leaving us alone, He invites us to bring our burdens to Him. The image of a yoke in Matthew 11 became clearer to me. A yoke is not just a heavy thing placed on someone's shoulders. It is something shared. When two animals are yoked together, the stronger one helps carry the load. That means Jesus does not simply give us another duty or another burden. He places His shoulder beside ours. He walks with us. He carries what we cannot carry alone. Maybe my problems do not disappear immediately. Maybe the worries of life are still there. But something changes when I stop trying to carry everything by myself. The burden begins to move from my weak hands into God's strong hands. I may still have to walk through the day, but I do not have to walk through it alone. The little bird could not reach the nest by itself, but with help, it was lifted back to where it belonged. I think our hearts are like that too. Sometimes we fall into fear, sadness, or exhaustion. Sometimes we feel too small for the height we are trying to reach, but God is our burden bearer. He lifts us with love. He supports us when we are weak. He brings us back to a place of peace. Today, helping that baby bird taught me something simple but beautiful. Even the smallest life matters, and even the weakest moment can become a reminder of God's care. Just as I could not ignore the little bird crying under the tree, God does not ignore His children when they cry out to Him. He is not distant. He is near. He is not only watching, He is helping. He is not adding weight to our hearts, He is carrying the weight with us. After that morning, I began to understand that the Bible does not speak about God's care only once. It repeats this truth in many gentle ways, almost like different rays of sunlight falling through the leaves of the same tree. Each verse gives the heart another reason to trust, another place to rest, another reminder that no life is too small and no burden is too hidden for God to notice. As I remembered the baby bird, I thought of Psalm 55, verse 22. "Cast your burden on the Lord, and He shall sustain you." The little bird could not lift itself back into the branches, and I could not leave it there alone. In a much greater way, God invites us to place our worries into His hands. He does not ask us to hide our fear or pretend our hearts are strong. He asks us to give Him what has become too heavy. Then another promise came softly to my mind. "Blessed be the Lord, who daily loads us with benefits, the God of our salvation." This verse from Psalm 68, verse 19, made the morning feel different. Before I even noticed the little bird, God had already filled the day with quiet gifts. The fresh air, the open path, the kind park worker, the ladder nearby, and the chance to do something good. I realized that blessings are not always loud. Sometimes they arrive as small opportunities to love. Isaiah 46 verse 4 says, "I have made, and I will bear. Even I will carry, and will deliver you." Those words felt especially beautiful after seeing such a tiny creature depend completely on help. The bird was fragile, but it was not forgotten. Its weakness did not make it worthless. Its smallness did not make it invisible. And if God gives such care to the birds of the sky, then surely He also sees every person who feels tired, frightened, or alone. I also thought about Deuteronomy 33, verse 27. The eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. When the little bird was lifted from the ground, it rested for a moment in careful hands before being returned to its nest. That image stayed with me. Sometimes when people fall, they do not need judgment first. They need shelter. They need steady love. They need arms strong enough to hold them until they can breathe again. Later, as I sat quietly at home and wrote these thoughts in my diary, I remembered 1 Peter 5, verse 7. Casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. This verse does not simply tell us to release our worries. It tells us why we can release them. We can let go because God cares. Not only when everything looks perfect, he cares personally, tenderly, and faithfully. Philippians 4, verse 6 also spoke to me. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. I understood that prayer is not only for big emergencies, it is also for small trembling moments like finding a bird under a tree, or waking up with a tired heart, or feeling unsure about what to do next. Prayer turns panic into trust. It teaches the heart to pause before fear takes control. Proverbs 3 verses 5 through 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." At the park, I did not know everything about birds. I did not know whether touching it was right, whether the parents would return, or whether I could reach the nest. But I tried to act with care, and help came at the right moment. That taught me that life does not always require perfect understanding. Sometimes it asks for a faithful heart, a gentle decision, and trust that God can guide the next step. Isaiah 40 verses 29 through 31 gave another layer of meaning to the day. It says that God gives power to the weak and renews the strength of those who wait on him. The baby bird had been practicing its wings, but it was not ready to soar yet. Still, one fall did not mean the end of its story. One weak moment did not cancel its future flight. I believe the same is true for us. We may stumble, grow tired, or feel unable to rise, but God can renew what life has worn down. Then I remembered the words of 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9. My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. This verse helped me see weakness differently. Weakness is not always a failure. Sometimes it is the very place where grace becomes most visible. If the little bird had never fallen, I would not have witnessed such a tender lesson. If I had not started the morning feeling heavy, perhaps I would not have noticed how beautiful one small act of kindness could be. Finally, Psalm 138 verse 3 says, "In the day when I cried out, you answered me, and made me bold with strength in my soul." That is exactly what I felt by the end of the morning. My problems had not all disappeared. My responsibilities were still waiting for me, but something inside me had changed. My soul felt steadier. My heart felt lighter. I had gone to the park carrying quiet heaviness, and I came home carrying peace. All these verses seemed to form a gentle net beneath the whole day. Each one held the same message in a slightly different way. We are not meant to carry life alone. God sustains, invites, provides, carries, shelters, cares, guides, strengthens, and renews. His support is not only for dramatic moments. It is also present in ordinary mornings, under tall trees beside flower beds, in the trembling wings of a baby bird, and in the softened heart of someone who chooses to help. As I continued writing in my diary, the story of Hagar came quietly to my heart. Her story felt connected to the little bird I had found in the park, because Hagar also knew what it meant to be alone, frightened, and unsure of how to survive the next moment. Hagar was sent into the wilderness with her son. She had water for a while, but soon the water was gone. Around her there was only dry land, heat, silence, and fear. She looked at her child and felt the pain of a mother who could not fix what was happening. The burden was too much for her heart. She could not bear to watch her son suffer, so she placed him under a bush and stepped away, crying in the wilderness. When I thought about Hagar, I remembered the baby bird standing on the ground beneath the tree. It was not in a desert, but it was still in danger. Its nest was above it, but it could not reach it. Help was close, but the little bird did not know that. It only knew the fear of being away from home. Maybe Hagar felt the same way. Maybe all she could see was the sand, the empty water skin, and the pain in front of her. Her tears may have blurred her sight so much that she could not notice what God had already prepared nearby. But God heard the cry. Before the wilderness changed, before the path became clear, before Hagar had the strength to rise again, God heard. Then God opened her eyes and she saw a well of water. That part of the story touched me deeply. The well had been near, but grief had hidden it from her view. Fear had made the world look empty. Pain had made provisions seem impossible. Yet God did not abandon her in that lonely place. He did not shame her for crying. He did not tell her she should have been stronger. He simply opened her eyes to the help that was already there. This made me think about my own morning. When I woke up, my heart felt heavy, and I thought the day would be difficult. But when I went to the park, God allowed me to see something tender. A little bird needed help, a worker was nearby, a ladder was available, and the nest was still waiting above. All of these small details were like a quiet well in the middle of my own ordinary wilderness. Sometimes when we are tired, we believe nothing good is near us. We may think we are alone because our emotions are loud. We may feel forgotten because the answer has not arrived in the way we expected. But Hagar's story reminds me that God sees what we cannot see. He hears what we cannot explain. He provides before we even know where to look. The little bird did not know how close help was. Hagar did not know how close the well was. And sometimes, I do not know how close God's mercy is. But today I learned that being in a low place does not mean being abandoned. Falling does not mean being forgotten. Crying does not mean faith has failed. The wilderness may still be dry for a moment, but God can open our eyes to the water. The ground may still feel unsafe, but He can send gentle hands. The tree may still be too high, but He can provide a way back home. Hagar's story also taught me that God cares for those who feel unseen. She was not powerful or celebrated. She was not standing in a palace. She was a tired woman in the wilderness with a breaking heart, yet heaven noticed her tears. Heaven heard the child's cry. Heaven spoke into the silence. That is the kind of God I want to remember. He sees the small bird under the tree. He sees the mother in the desert. He sees the student with a tired heart. He sees every person who smiles outside while quietly struggling inside. By the time I finished writing about Hagar, I felt a warm peace in my heart. I understood that the park had not only given me a chance to do a good deed, it had also given me a picture of God's care. Just as the baby bird was not left alone on the ground, Hagar was not left alone in the wilderness. And I am not left alone in my own heavy mornings. God may not remove every desert immediately, but He can open my eyes to the well. He may not answer every question at once, but He can give enough grace for the next step. He may not make the tree lower, but He can still help the small and trembling heart find its way back to safety. As the day went on, I began to think about another kind of burden. The baby bird's problem was easy to see. It was on the ground. Its wings were trembling. Its nest was high above. Anyone who looked carefully could understand that it needed help. But not every burden is visible. Some weights are hidden inside the heart. People carry them quietly while still smiling, studying, working, helping others, and pretending everything is fine. No one can see the heaviness, but it is there. It follows them through the day like a shadow. I realized that morning that I also carry hidden burdens sometimes. I carry the pressure of wanting to do everything well. I carry the fear of disappointing others. I carry the worry that if I make a mistake, people may think less of me. Sometimes I even carry guilt for things I cannot change, or fear about things that have not happened yet. These burdens are different from the little bird's fall, but they can feel just as heavy. The little bird was not meant to stay on the ground alone. In the same way, I do not believe our hearts were meant to carry every hidden pain without help. Some people carry the expectations of their family. They feel they must always be successful, always responsible, always strong. Others carry wounds from words spoken long ago by parents, teachers, friends, or people they trusted. Some carry shame from past mistakes, even after God has already offered forgiveness. There are also people who carry the false belief that they must keep proving themselves in order to be loved. They think that if they stop working, stop serving, stop performing, or stop holding everything together, then love will disappear. But real love does not work like that. God's love is not a reward for pretending to be strong. It is a gift given to tired hearts who come honestly before Him. This reminded me again of 1 Peter 5, verse 7. Casting all your care upon Him, for He cares for you. The verse does not say to cast only the easy worries on God. It says all your care. That means the fears we speak about and the fears we hide. The burdens people notice and the burdens no one sees. The pain we understand and the pain we cannot explain. God cares for all of it. He cares about the student who is afraid of failing. He cares about the child who wants to make their parents proud. He cares about the person who feels guilty for resting. He cares about the one who has carried sadness for so long that it feels normal. He cares about the heart that is tired from trying to control every outcome. I thought about how anxious I felt when I first saw the baby bird. I wanted to help, but I also wanted everything to go perfectly. I worried that I might do the wrong thing. I worried that the bird might be hurt. I worried that I could not reach the nest. But when I stopped panicking and asked for help, the situation became clearer. Maybe anxiety is the heart trying to do God's job. That sentence stayed with me. When I am anxious, I try to predict everything. I try to solve tomorrow before today has even finished. I try to hold the future in my hands, even though my hands are too small for such a heavy thing. Philippians 4 verse 6 says, "Be anxious for nothing but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." This does not mean that life will never feel difficult. It means that prayer gives my worries somewhere to go. Worry keeps circling inside the heart. Prayer lifts it toward God. That morning in the park, I could not control everything. I could not make the baby bird fly. I could not become tall enough to reach the nest. I could not command the parent birds to return at the exact moment I wanted. But I could do the next right thing. I could notice. I could care. I could ask for help. I could trust that the little life in front of me mattered. Maybe that is how I should live more often. I do not have to carry every expectation. I do not have to fix every relationship. I do not have to know every answer before I take the next step. I do not have to control every result in order to feel safe. Some things belong in my hands, but many things belong in God's hands. The hidden burden becomes lighter when I finally tell the truth. Lord, this is too much for me. That is not failure. That is honesty. And maybe honesty is the beginning of peace. As I wrote this in my diary, I thought again about the bird resting back in its nest. It did not need to understand everything that had happened. It only needed to be safe. It only needed to be held for a little while and return to the place where it could grow. My heart needs that too. It needs a safe place. It needs rest. It needs to stop carrying things God never asked it to carry. Today, I learned that some burdens fall from the branches where everyone can see them. others fall quietly inside the soul. But God sees both. He sees the trembling bird beneath the tree, and he sees the trembling heart behind a calm face. He invites us to give him not only the problems we can explain, but also the hidden weights we have carried for too long. And when we place those burdens in his hands, we begin to understand that we were never meant to live crushed beneath them. Later that evening, as I continued writing about the little bird, another story came to my mind, the story of Moses and Jethro. Moses was a great leader, but even a great leader could become tired. Day after day, people came to him with their problems, questions, arguments, and needs. From morning until evening, he listened, judged, explained, guided, and carried the concerns of an entire nation. He was doing something good, but he was doing too much of it alone. When his father-in-law Jethro saw this, he did not praise Moses for being busy. He saw the danger beneath the effort. He understood that Moses was wearing himself out. So Jethro told him that the work was too heavy for one person and that he needed to share the responsibility with trustworthy people. That story made me think again about what happened in the park. When I first saw the baby bird, I wanted to help it by myself. I looked up at the nest and wondered if I could reach it. I thought about trying harder, stretching higher, or finding a way on my own. But the tree was too tall, and I was not able to return the bird safely without help. For a moment I felt the pressure to solve everything alone. Then I saw the park worker nearby. Asking him for help did not mean I had failed. It meant I was wise enough to understand my limit. He had the ladder. He knew how to climb safely. Together we were able to do what I could not do by myself. That small moment helped me understand Moses more clearly. Sometimes, people think love means carrying everything alone. They think responsibility means never asking for help. They believe that if they stop for one moment, everything will fall apart. But perhaps that is not always faith. Sometimes it is control wearing the clothes of duty. Moses cared for the people, but he was not called to be the answer to every problem by himself. I cared about the little bird, but I was not meant to climb the tall tree alone. In both stories, help was not a weakness. Help was part of God's wisdom. This made me think about many people who carry too much. Some parents carry the pain of their children and blame themselves for every wrong choice. Some husbands or wives carry a whole marriage alone, praying, trying, forgiving, and hoping while their hearts grow tired. Some students carry the expectations of their families until success feels less like joy and more like fear. Some people become the strong one for everyone else, but they have no place to rest when their own heart breaks. Maybe they need to hear what Jethro helped Moses understand. You are not called to be the savior of every situation. There are things we can love. There are things we can pray for. There are things we can support. But there are also things we cannot control. I could not make the little bird's wings stronger in one morning. I could not teach it to fly perfectly. I could not become its mother, and I could not live in the nest with it. My part was simple: notice, protect, ask for help, and return it safely. After that, I had to step back and let nature, time, and God continue the work. Perhaps life is often like that. We do our part, but we must not confuse our part with God's part. We can help someone, but we cannot become their whole rescue. We can encourage, but we cannot force healing. We can guide, but we cannot control every choice. We can love deeply, but we cannot carry another person's entire life on our shoulders. That truth felt both humbling and freeing. As I wrote in my diary, I realized that the little bird had taught me another quiet lesson. Compassion is beautiful, but compassion also needs wisdom. A good heart must learn when to hold and when to release, when to act, and when to ask for help, when to stay close and when to step back. If I had tried to do everything alone, I might have made the situation worse. But when I accepted help, the bird was returned safely. In the same way, when people try to carry every burden alone, even good intentions can become exhausting. God often sends others like Jethro, people who can gently say, "This is too much for you to carry by yourself." And when such help comes, we should not reject it because of pride. We should receive it as grace. By the end of that day, I understood that helping the baby bird was not only about kindness. It was also about learning my own limits. I was not less caring because I needed help. I was not less responsible because I called someone stronger and better prepared. In fact, asking for help was part of the good deed itself. Moses needed Jethro's wisdom. Hagar needed God to open her eyes to the well. The baby bird needed gentle hands and a ladder. And I need to remember that my life was never meant to be carried by my strength alone. There is peace in knowing that I am allowed to care without controlling everything. I am allowed to help without becoming the hero of every story. I am allowed to love deeply and still place the final outcome in God's hands. That night, I closed my diary with a quieter heart. The bird was back in its nest. The tree was still tall. The world was still full of burdens. But I had learned something important. When the work is too heavy, God does not always ask us to become stronger by ourselves. Sometimes He sends help. Sometimes He teaches us to share the load. Sometimes He reminds us that true faith is not trying to control everything, but trusting Him enough to do our part and leave the rest with Him. After thinking about Moses and Jethro, I began to understand that letting go is not the same as giving up. For a long time, I used to think surrender meant losing, as if only weak people stopped holding on. But today taught me something different. Surrender can be one of the bravest things a person ever does. The world often tells us to try harder when we are tired. It says we must push more, prove more, carry more, and never admit that we are struggling. But God speaks with a gentler voice. He does not shame the weary heart. He does not demand that we hide our exhaustion. He says, "Come closer." That difference touched me deeply. When I found the little bird beneath the tree, I saw how hard it tried to use its wings. It wanted to rise, but its body was not ready. If it had continued struggling on the ground, it might have hurt itself even more. Its rescue began when it stopped fighting long enough to be lifted. In that small picture, I saw a quiet truth about my own soul. Sometimes I keep flapping against life with fear in my heart. I try to rise by force. I try to fix things before I have the strength. I try to act as if I am ready for everything, even when I am still growing. But God does not ask me to pretend. He invites me to rest in Him until new strength comes. Isaiah 40 verses 29 through 31 says that God gives power to the weak, and those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. I smiled when I remembered that verse because of the baby bird. Its wings were small, unfinished, and trembling. But one day, they would be strong enough to carry it through the sky. Falling that morning did not mean it would never fly. It simply meant its strength was still being formed. Maybe I am like that too. Maybe my weak moments are not the end of my story. Maybe they are places where God is quietly teaching my soul how to trust. Maybe waiting is not wasted time. Maybe it is where hidden strength grows. Then I remembered 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, where the Lord says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." Those words felt warm inside me. God does not wait for me to become powerful before He helps me. He meets me in the very place where I feel fragile. He does not turn away from weakness. He fills it with grace. The little bird did not have to become strong before help arrived. It was helped while it was still small. It was protected while it was still afraid. It was returned to the nest before it had mastered the sky. That made me think about how tender God is with us. He does not say, "Come back when your faith is perfect." He does not say, "I will carry you only after you stop trembling." Instead, He comes near while we are still uncertain. He gives mercy while our voices are still shaking. He holds us while our hearts are still learning how to trust. Surrender, then, is not lying down in defeat. It is placing ourselves where grace can reach us. It is saying, "Lord, I cannot do this alone." It is opening the hands that have been clenched around fear. It is allowing God to be stronger than our worry. It is choosing nearness over control. As the evening became quiet, I thought about Psalm 138, verse 3. "In the day when I cried out, you answered me and made me bold with strength in my soul." That was the kind of strength I wanted. Not just strength to look fine on the outside, but strength deep within. Strength in the soul. Strength that can breathe again. Strength that can trust, even before everything changes. By then, I understood why the morning had felt so important. The good deed at the park had become more than a simple memory. It had become a lesson about grace. I had seen weakness, help, patience, and restoration, all in one small moment beneath a tree. The bird was lifted, but I was also lifted, but by the quiet reminder that God is near when life feels too heavy. I went to sleep that night with a softer heart. I did not have all the answers. I still had responsibilities waiting for me. I still had thoughts I needed to bring before God, but I no longer felt the same pressure to carry everything alone. I could surrender, I could breathe, I could trust, and maybe, like that little bird, I could believe that one day the wings that felt weak today would become strong enough for the sky. When I opened my diary again, I remembered Hannah. Her story felt different from the others, but it belonged beside them. Hagar showed me that God sees the abandoned. Moses showed me that no one is meant to carry every responsibility alone. Hannah showed me what true surrender looks like when pain has lived in the heart for a long time. Hannah wanted a child, but year after year her arms remained empty. Her sorrow was not small or sudden. It was a deep ache that followed her through ordinary days. To make it worse, she was mocked by someone close to her. The wound was not only private, it was pressed again and again by cruel words. Even the people around her did not fully understand the depth of her grief. Yet Hannah did not hide forever. She went to the house of the Lord and poured out her soul before God. She did not come with perfect sentences. She did not come with a polished prayer. Her lips moved, but her voice could barely be heard. She was not performing faith for anyone. She was simply bringing her broken heart honestly before the one who could receive it. That part of her story stayed with me. Sometimes I think prayer must sound beautiful before it can reach heaven. But Hannah teaches something gentler. Real prayer does not need to be impressive. It needs to be honest. God is not waiting for perfect words. He is listening for a true heart. When Hannah left the temple, her situation had not changed yet. She still did not have the child she had prayed for. The answer had not appeared in her arms. The years of waiting had not suddenly disappeared from her memory. But Scripture says her face was no longer sad. That is the mystery of surrender. Prayer may not change everything around us at once, but it can change something within us first. It can lift the weight from the soul before the answer arrives. It can give peace before the promise is visible. It can steady the heart even while the circumstances remain unfinished. I thought again about the little bird in the park. Before it returned to the nest, it had to stop struggling long enough to be helped. Hannah also stopped carrying her pain alone. She placed it before God. She released what she could not control, and even before her dream came true, her heart received peace. That made me look at my own life with more honesty. There are things I have prayed about but have not yet seen change. There are questions I still do not understand. There are hopes that feel delayed. Sometimes I carry disappointment quietly because I do not know how to explain it to anyone else. But Hannah reminds me that I can bring all of it to God. I can bring the hope that still waits. I can bring the sadness I try to hide. I can bring the fear that people may not understand. I can bring the prayer that comes out in silence, and I do not have to pretend to be strong while doing it. As I wrote this, I realized that the baby bird, Hagar, Moses, and Hannah all carried one shared lesson. Each one needed help beyond personal strength. The bird needed gentle hands. Hagar needed God to open her eyes. Moses needed wise guidance. Hannah needed a holy place to pour out her soul. Maybe I need all of those too. I need eyes open to hidden provision. I need wisdom to share heavy responsibilities. I need courage to surrender instead of control. I need prayer that is real, even when it is not beautiful. By the time I finished writing, I felt ready to pray. Not because every burden had disappeared, but because my heart had become softer. The good deed at the park had opened a door inside me. It had shown me that God can use one small, trembling bird to teach a person about care, surrender, and peace. So before closing my diary, I bowed my head quietly. I did not try to make my prayer sound perfect. I simply began with the truth. Before I closed my diary, I did not want to write only what I had learned. I wanted to turn the whole day into a prayer. The little bird, the tall tree, the quiet park, the kind worker, the stories of Hagar, Moses, and Hannah, all of them had led me to this moment. I understood that a good deed is not only something we do with our hands, sometimes it becomes a doorway that teaches the heart how to speak to God. So I sat still for a while. I let the room become quiet. I breathed slowly and imagined the baby bird resting safely in its nest. Then I thought about my own heart, and I realized that I also needed to be carried back to a place of peace. I began to pray. Lord, my gracious and loving Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for waking me up, even when my heart felt heavy. Thank you for meeting me in an ordinary morning and teaching me through something as small as a baby bird under a tree. Thank you because you are not a distant God. You are near to the tired, near to the weak, near to the ones who do not know how to explain what they are feeling. You are the one who carries burdens too heavy for human shoulders. You are the one who sees the hidden tears. You are the one who hears the quiet cry before anyone else notices. You are the shelter above me, the arms beneath me, and the peace within me. Today I worship you not only because you are powerful, but because you are tender. Lord, I confess that many times I have tried to carry life by myself. I have held worries in my mind as if thinking about them over and over could solve them. I have carried fear as if fear could protect me. I have carried shame as if punishing myself could make me better. I have carried comparison as if another person's journey could decide the value of mine. Please forgive me for the moments when I forgot to trust you. Forgive me for leaning only on my own understanding. Forgive me for pretending to be strong when you were inviting me to be honest. Forgive me for holding tightly to things you asked me to release. Today, I lay my burdens before you. I lay down the worry about tomorrow. I lay down the fear of failing. I lay down the pain of being misunderstood. I lay down the pressure to please everyone. I lay down the need to control every outcome. I lay down the sadness I have hidden behind a calm face. I lay down the guilt that keeps returning even after I have asked for forgiveness. I lay down every weight that was never meant to become my identity. Lord, help me forgive those who have added heaviness to my life. Help me release the people who hurt me, disappointed me, ignored me, or made me feel small. I do not want bitterness to become another burden in my heart. Teach me to forgive, not because the pain did not matter, but because my soul needs freedom. Let my heart become clean, soft, and open before you again. Father, I give you my worries about school, work, responsibilities, and the future. Please guide my steps. Give me wisdom to do what is right, courage to continue when I feel tired, and humility to ask for help when the tree is too tall for me to climb alone. Bless the work of my hands. Open the right doors. Close the wrong ones gently. Lead me toward opportunities that are good, honest, and peaceful. If there are financial burdens, provide what is needed. If there are decisions ahead, give clarity. If there are dreams that feel delayed, renew hope without making my heart restless. Let your favor surround me, not so I can become proud, but so I can live with gratitude and become a blessing to others. Lord, protect me and the people I love. Guard our homes, our journeys, our health, and our hearts. Keep us from danger, accidents, confusion, and harmful paths. Surround us with your peace. Watch over every child, every parent, every spouse, every friend, and every person who feels alone today. I pray for healing too, Lord. Heal the body where it is tired or in pain. Heal the mind where anxiety has been loud. Heal the heart where old wounds still ache. Heal the places no one sees. Heal the memories that still bring tears. Heal the fear that makes breathing feel difficult. Heal the disappointment that has made hope feel dangerous. Let peace return. Let strength return. Let joy return. Let rest return. Lord, I pray for every family carrying silent burdens. For the parent worried about a child. For the child trying to make the family proud. For the marriage that feels strained. For the home where words have become sharp or silence has become cold. Bring patience where there has been anger. Bring understanding where there has been distance. Bring love where there has been pain. Bring prayer back into homes that have grown tired. And Lord, I bring you the things I cannot even put into words. You know them already. You know the prayers I have whispered for a long time. You know the hopes I have stopped saying aloud. You know the questions I still carry. You know the places in my heart that feel like Hagar's wilderness, Moses' exhaustion, and Hannah's silent tears. Please meet me there. Open my eyes to the well nearby. Send help when the load is too much. Give peace even before the answer appears. Teach me that surrender is not the end of strength, but the beginning of your strength in me. And Lord, I also pray for everyone who may be feeling like that little bird today, small, tired, frightened, and far from safety. May they know that they are not forgotten. May they feel your hands lifting them. May they find their way back to peace. May they remember that falling is not the same as failing, and weakness is not the same as being unloved. Thank you, Father, for carrying me. Thank you for carrying those I love. Thank you for carrying every burden I finally place in your hands. Today I choose to trust you. I choose to breathe. I choose to let go. I choose to believe that your everlasting arms are underneath me. In Jesus' name, amen. When I finished praying, nothing outside the room had changed very much. The same responsibilities were still there. The same questions had not all been answered. But inside me, something felt different. My heart was quieter, as if a heavy stone had been moved from the center of my chest. I thought again of Hannah leaving the temple with a face no longer sad. I understood her better now. Prayer does not always remove the whole situation at once. Sometimes it removes the loneliness from the situation. Sometimes it does not make the road shorter, but it gives the soul enough strength to walk. Sometimes it does not lower the tree, but it reminds the little bird that help can still come. That was the gift of this day. I had helped a baby bird return to its nest, but through that small act, God had helped my own heart return to Him. If this story and prayer touched your heart, I invite you to write Amen in the comments as a simple sign of faith. Let it be your way of saying, Lord, I am placing my burdens in your hands today. And if you know someone who feels tired, overwhelmed, or alone, please share this message with them. Maybe they are like the little bird in the park trying to rise again, but needing a gentle reminder that help is near. Your simple share may become encouragement for someone who quietly needs strength today. If this reflection blessed you, please like this video and subscribe for more peaceful prayers, gentle stories, and daily reminders of God's love. You are also welcome to leave your prayer request in the comments so we can stand together in faith and pray for one another. May God lift every burden from your heart, renew your strength, protect your family, and guide you gently through this day. May you remember that you are not alone, you are not forgotten, and you are always held in His everlasting arms. Amen.